Let's take a look at how we're gonna balance in basic aqueous solutions. Overall, this will be pretty simple to or pretty similar to the last example, just with additional a step. So we still have the first 6 or 7 steps, and then we just have an additional step at the end. Since we're in basic solution, we can't have H pluses floating around. So what we need to do is add hydroxides on both sides to neutralize the H plus and make water. And then, of course, cancel out. So let's go ahead and take a look at an example. So in this case, we have chlorine plus some hydroxide going to some chloride and some perchlorate. All right. So the first thing we want to do is split our equation into 2 reactions. So if we think about the charge here, the charge on this or the oxidation state on this chlorine is 0. On this oxygen, it's -2. On the H, it's +1. On this chloride, it's -1. On this chlorine in this molecule right here, it's actually +7. And then the oxygen is -2. So what you'll notice is that the oxygen didn't change oxidation states, and the hydrogen's only on one side of the equation, obviously. So what are we going to do here is we're actually going to double use this chlorine, because we can see half of the chlorine is getting reduced and half of it is getgetting oxidized. So the Cl2 will actually be on both sides of our half cell reactions. So on this side, we'll have Cl2 going to Cl minus. And then on this side, we'll have Cl2 going to ClO4 minus. And then if we think about the change in the oxidation state, this one's going from 0 to -1. That's reduction. This one is going from 0 to +7. That's oxidation. You don't necessarily need to know which side is which, but it is definitely good to know. And then we just go through our steps, right? Balance elements in the equation other than oxygen and hydrogens. So in this case, we have 2 chlorines on this side, so we need to put a 2 here. And then same thing, we have 2 on this side, so we need to put a 2 here. Then we want to balance the oxygens by adding the appropriate number of waters. We don't have any oxygens here, so we're good there. We have 4 oxygens on this side, so to balance that out, we need to add 4 waters on, we have 8 waters, right? 2 times 4, don't forget about that too. We have 8 oxygens, so we need to balance that out with 8 waters. After that, we want to balance the hydrogens by adding H pluses. No H pluses there. We've got 16 H pluses, right? 8 times 2. So we need to add 16 H pluses here. After that, we want to add up the charges and make sure that they're equal and add electrons as needed. So here we have a -2. Here we have 0. So we need to add 2 electrons here. Here we have this oxygen, or this water is 0. This chlorine is 0. This perchlorate is a -2 because we have 2 of them. And then we have +16 for a total of +14. To make it equal to this side, which is 0, we need to add 14 electrons. After that, we have to make sure that our electrons are the same on both half cells. If not, we have to make them equal. So we have 2 electrons over here, 14 here. The common denominator there, or a common multiple, is 14. So we need to multiply this whole equation times 7. So that'll result in 14 E minus plus 7 Cl2 goes to 14 Cl minus, right? Notice I'm multiplying the whole equation by 7. And I'm just going to rewrite this other side as well, because why not? 8 waters, 2 Cl2s goes to 2 of these, 16 H pluses, and then 14 electrons. Cool. All right, next up, add them together, cancel anything out. The electrons should always cancel out. So electrons 14 here, perfect, they cancel out. That means that we're on the right track. And that add the reactants to the reactants. So in this case, we have 7 Cl2s plus 8 waters plus a Cl2. And then add the products to the products. So then we have 14 Cl minus plus 2ClO4 minus plus 16 H pluses. Cool. So if we were in acidic media, we would be done, but we're not in acidic media, we're in basic media. And if we're in basic solution, we can't have H pluses floating around, right? H pluses really only float around in acidic media, but we're in basic, right? So we have to do one additional step, and that's to add hydroxides on both sides to neutralize the H pluses and make water, right? So we see we have H pluses here. We have 16 of them, so we have to add 16 hydroxides. However, when we do that, we would unbalance our equation, so we have to add 16 hydroxides on this side as well. And then H plus and hydroxides form to make water. So we can rewrite our equation. Another thing I'm going to do, I noticed that I have a Cl2 here, I have a Cl2 here. I can combine those. So it goes up to 8 Cl2 plus 8 waters plus 16 hydroxides, going to 14 Cl minus plus 2 ClO4 minus plus 16 waters. Now I have water on both sides, so I can cancel out all 8 of these waters, and then I'd be left with 8 here. So I can rewrite my equation, 8Cl2 plus 16 hydroxides, going to 14 chlorides, 2 there, and then 8 waters. The other thing I need to do is reduce the coefficients if possible. So if we take a look at all of our coefficients, 8, 16, 14, 2, and 8, they're all divisible by 2. They're all even numbers. So we need to go ahead and divide both by 2, right? So we have 4 Cl2 plus 8 hydroxides, going to 7 Cl minuses plus just 1 of these now, and then 4 waters, right? We've got a 1 here, so we can't reduce that any further. And then, of course, as always, we need to double check our balancing, right? So chlorines, we have 8 on this side. We have 7 here and then 1 here. That's 8 on the right side. Our oxygens, we have 8 right here. And then we have 4 over here and then another 4 right there for a total of 8. Our hydrogens, we have 8 on this side. And then we have 4 times 2 is 8 over here as well. And then we have to check our charge. So we've got a 0 charge here, a -8 here, and then on this side, so it's a total of -8 on this side. And then a -7 here, a -1 here, and then all of these are 0 for a total of -8. So we can see our equation is balanced and we are done. As most things in the class, this just takes some practice. Once you get the steps down, they do seem a lot. It does seem like a lot of steps, especially when you write them all out. But once you do a couple practice problems, you'll notice that this goes by pretty quickly. Cool.